Welcome to Dice and Mind, a podcast hosted by Brad Brown and Jason Kaufman to explore the intersection of life, games, science, music, philosophy, and creativity through interviews with leading creatives. All are welcome in this space. All right, so welcome back to Dice and Mind. I'm taking the opening on this one.
It's weird.
Yeah, what's going on? Cats and
What's going
dogs
on?
living together. Okay,
Mass
mass
hysteria.
hysteria. Okay,
Yeah.
now that we got that out of the system. So we have a well, let me just back up here. As all of you know, because of what Brad and I do professionally, albeit in really different spheres, we talk a lot about leadership. And we talk a lot about directly and indirectly leadership development. And this is something that, like Brad, you and I talk about offline these days constantly, right? Like
Yes.
we were just texting literally yesterday about onboarding and lack thereof at most organizations, right?
Yeah. I mean, what a random discussion to have. Granted, I mean, just in the grand scheme of things, we got on that topic about onboarding new employees.
Yeah. So you and I mean, again, because of it's just right, it's midlife. We've both had some modicum, emphasis on modicum of success, right? At least
Yeah.
you less modicum, me more modicum. But
Yeah.
no, that was a compliment to you. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
well, I didn't take it that way, but
I
thank
know
you.
that's why I was correcting you. But
I don't
like
know his English so good.
you don't talk too good. So, but we talk a lot about leadership and its development because we think about it a lot. And something that we've talked about with some of our guests, but not very many, but we've talked about with people offline is the potential for RPGs and even RPGs as lit to inform leadership development. And that brings us to our guest for this episode. Um, Peter, I've known Peter for about 2 years, and since I met him, he's been talking about the potential for RPGs, tabletop RPGs, specifically things like Pathfinder and that ilk, but lots of them, to be used to just work with people to develop social skills and emotional skills and whatnot. And as you'll hear in a moment, he's a really dynamic individual and he's just a lovely guy. But what I only learned in the past, let's see, this is dropping. What I only learned in the past about 2 months is he's really, really interested in using RPGs to promote leadership development, to train in leadership. And when he told me that, my response was, okay, so you know how I have this podcast with my friend? You need to be on it and talk about this with us.
Hmm.
And so when and then
Yeah.
I kind of just scheduled Peter and Brad's like, so who's this guy? And I'm like, I actually don't know. No, not really. So we're gonna hop over to the interview and just you'll just see how it evolves. But I think it's an idea, Brad, that you and I find provocative. Like you and I, after we finished the recording with Peter that night, we kept texting like,
Oh yeah, we
what's
had a really good discussion after that, and it was
seriously,
because
yeah.
Peter inspired, you
Yeah.
know, Peter, you inspired a great
Yeah, so
discussion
thank you for
when
that.
Jason and I. Yes.
Peter Tinaglia is a human teacher who wants to use TTRPGs in places of work as a team building tool. His day job is teaching teenagers about history, but his evening job is running an after-school D&D club for teenagers and teachers.
Peter, thanks for joining us today. I'm really glad because the stuff that you are doing with RPGs and the ideas and thoughts that you might have in terms of doing things in the world of professional development,
Yeah.
um, for me is fascinating. Whether you do it, and I mean, just in the back of my mind, I'm thinking you could do this in business, you could do this in, like continuing ed, professional development, and education. You could do it in continuing ed, in
Yeah.
so many different areas. What kind of like, you know, What made what how did the light bulb go off for you to think about going in that kind of direction?
I mean, I've talked with Jason before about like I really enjoy playing RPGs. And I really appreciate that you call it RPGs and not D&D. I actually remember before I got onto this, I was like, I really don't want to say D&D, even though I will say I run an after school D&D club. And the only reason I call it D&D club is because branding. Otherwise, if I say, hey, we have an RPG club, they'll have no idea what it means. Rocket Propel Grenade Club? You
Yeah,
can't have that at school.
yeah.
But anyway, so I guess the light bulb that went off recently was that, like I said, I run an after school RPG club. I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years. And most recently this year, I invited a bunch of teachers to come to the after school club. And typically I have about 15 to 20 kids every Friday. And this year, all of the tables were filled with student-led GMs, and I was bored because I wasn't playing and I wasn't a GM. And so I was like, I'm not just going to sit here and watch. So I invited some teachers and we started playing. The kids had their tables. We're in a media center. And I started to notice that these were teachers who had, I was nice with them, but we didn't directly work with each other. Like there's a sped teacher in my group. There's an English teacher. There is a social worker. There's the tech guy in there. There's another English teacher. There's at least another like student aid. So we have a lot of like diverse jobs in there, and we all work together. And I just started to notice anecdotally, we started to get along more when we were not at the table. Like I would see some of them and be like, "Oh, hey, what's going on, guys?" Like in the hallway, and I would like chit chat more with them and all of these things. And I even remember in college, like there were people who I'm assuming you guys have you guys played like RPGs with like people you were unfamiliar with, quote unquote, before?
I have in the well, probably
In
in the ancient
in the
past.
yeah, I was gonna say it's when I
Yeah.
was when I
Okay.
was introduced by another good friend back in high school. I knew his other group of
Okay.
friends, but like tangentially, so yeah, sort of.
Did you guys like play did you play with them like regularly, or was it
No,
like you
I
played with
know.
those like okay, no.
No.
So I remember in college playing with someone who I did not like at all. And then after like 5 or 6 sessions, I was like, okay, this person has some redeeming qualities. I was like, okay. And then I noticed with the teachers too, I was like, not that I disliked any of them, but like I was like, I'm getting along more with these people. And I after talking with Jason, after talking with another colleague who I really trust at school, I was like, I want to do this. Like, I want to do something where we basically just play games with each other. And with the end result or goal being we feel more comfortable, we get along better. And that's it.
Nothing brings people together like just yelling roll for initiative.
Or you're dead.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
what?
Or you're dead.
Or yeah, of course. All of those things are funny, but I mean like think of like all of the like and I'm gonna be preaching to the choir, I assume, but like you have to solve problems in this. Like as a GM, I'm a problem creator. I'm going to put an obstacle in front of you and solve it. I don't know how to solve it. I don't know how to solve this problem. You guys figure it out. And then they got to work together. And then think of the other things too of like someone is like again, it was really wild to see some of these people, my colleagues who again, most of these people never played RPGs before. And one person would start dying. And then three other people would flock to them. And, oh my gosh, we got to save them. What do we do, Peter? I go, I don't know. What do you guys want to do? Ah, let's start saving them. And they just naturally started to work together and do these things. And I would also start like email chains to be like, hey guys, we're playing again in like a week or so. And then they would start messaging each other through the thread, being like, oh my gosh, did you guys remember what happened last time? Oh, that was so much fun. Oh, you did this. And like this natural camaraderie kind of just started happening. And so it was really nice. So I'm wanting to recreate that somehow.
Now, you there's a reason I'm asking this, but you and I have talked about this a bit already. But I know, Peter, you like you play and you like a real diverse variety of RPGs.
Yes.
With the kids at school, and there's a reason I'm asking this, with the kids at school, like you were working on your master's project. Like, I mean, we've been talking about this for the better part of a year, like from its
Yeah.
genesis, and it wasn't until your actual presentation that you're like, well, it's not actually D&D. And I was like, what? You've been calling it D&D literally since day one. But
Okay, well, that's
what
not
have you
100% true. We literally did have a conversation where I discussed D&D and Pathfinder with you.
Oh,
But
okay,
either way, keep going. Keep going.
that's
Keep
true, but
going.
that's true. But
Keep going.
so what was it that you've been playing with the kids and teachers at the school?
All right. So I'm gonna do a little show and tell. Obviously, I know the listeners won't be able to see, but Brad, I want you to be able to see, and Jason, I want you to see too.
Jason, we can illustrate. We
Yeah,
can
Brad will
verbally
use a narrative descriptive
Yeah.
tone.
So the
as he
biggest.
cautiously lifts the book up
Right.
to the
Oh,
screen.
actually Peter showed me this. You're gonna like this.
So
I
there
see.
there's so Brad, you've heard of Pathfinder?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Brad,
This was
Brad,
actually,
So
there's a story behind it. That was
yeah.
originally the
okay.
game that got us started back into
Yep.
this, and yeah, so
Oh,
this,
nice.
Hmm.
yes.
Did you guys start with Pathfinder or 3.5? Because my first system was 3.5, the
No,
D&D
this was
system.
it was 1E. It was 1E,
One
Pathfinder
Pathfinder.
1E.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
You'd
I had
been
done
the
some
th three,
three,
yeah.
Okay.
not even 3.5
I I
back
was
in the day.
in I was
Right.
15 when 2005 when I started playing 3.5. And then in
Yeah, I
college
know.
my buddies
We're just gonna ignore that, and you keep going, Peter. Mhm.
and my buddies in college were like, "Hey Peter, we're going to switch to this new system. It's called Pathfinder." I go, "Well, what is it?" And he goes, "Well, it's kind of like 3.5, but it's like 3.75." I go, "Okay, cool. Let's do it. Rock and roll." I don't know any difference. And so anyway, Pathfinder is my main high fantasy crunchy system.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
as you know, um, teenagers have a lot going on and they
Yeah, this is
don't have
interesting.
a lot of patience. So this system is called ShadowDark. What it basically
Interesting.
does is it takes, and I'll show you real quick so you can be like a barometer here.
Jason, is this something I'm going to be Amazoning soon?
I think before this discussion is over.
Okay.
Yeah,
This is the character page for the
yeah,
thief, and this is it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's a spread. That's it. Here's the cool thing about this system. And the character sheet is, let's go to the back. This. That's
I
it.
I think that Peter didn't quite catch this when I suggested this, but I think from what he's showing us, and from what because you showed me this.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
talked
yeah.
about this when we were before semester was over. Brad, it to me it's like if Pathfinder and Fate had a baby. Yes, thank you.
Ah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really
It's
interesting.
so the reason I like it is one, it's got the 6 ability scores.
Yeah.
Strength, Dex, Con, it's got all those.
Standards, yeah.
You still do that. Yep, that's just fine. Your abilities, it's like each class gets like maybe one or two. That's
Nice.
it.
Yep.
But then after that, there's a focus on what do you want to do.
Hmm.
And so, like in Pathfinder, you build feats. And I want to say, like, I play
Yeah.
Pathfinder Second Edition. I love it.
But
It's great.
super
But
crunchy.
super crunchy. But why I like this system for teenagers and even it's low committal. It taking building a character is very quick. And the other thing I I really like about this, it's very deadly. Like it is
Oh.
Oh.
high lethality. Like
Oh.
for
Go
example,
on.
a thief gets 1d4 HP at level 1 and you roll it. Oh no, sorry, 1d6. Wizard
Oh.
1d4.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
and a goblin. Let me just again, I'll show you a quick stat block of a goblin. Oh, again, why this is fun is let's do an orc. Orc, level 1 orc. They have 4 HP, but they can do a D8 damage.
Oh
They get
wow.
one
Good
shot
grief.
by an orc. So it's an emphasis on simple mechanics.
Yeah.
Like you can die very easily.
Mhm.
And so I hate the phrase when people say, don't get in combat. No, get in combat,
Mhm.
but take the enemy by surprise.
Yeah.
Have the advantage. Do not just charge in, weaken them, do all of these things,
Yeah.
fight dirty.
Think. Yeah.
Yeah, fight dirty. Do not just you're not a hero. You're just a regular guy who has a cool longsword, maybe some magic. you got to go in and you got to be
Mhm.
careful.
Yeah,
So
you have
we've
to.
already,
So you'll have to excuse Brad. The glossed over look
yeah.
is because he's ordering it right now.
I
Keep
know.
going.
It's great. So like, so for example, like we've already had like, so we've been playing for like I've been playing with my teachers for about 6 months, and we've had two or three, I think 2 or 3 character deaths already, and they've only are at, have they hit level 3 yet? Some of them hit level 3.
Oh wow.
Um, but it's because they're new. They don't know any better. They don't know that in like Pathfinder, it's like, well, like so you try not to die that often. I'm not saying you don't want to die in this game. You don't want to die, but like they've just accepted that like, well, Peter said I'm dead. I'm dead,
Yeah.
and then they roll a new character and they move on. Um, but it's been so anyway. Going with why I like this system. It's quick. It's
Very
easy.
interesting.
But for the summer, I really want to play Pathfinder again because I haven't played in
Mm.
like 8 months.
Hmm.
So I'm like,
Hmm.
I always get
Do you
the
play do you
itch.
play 2E or 1E?
2E.
2E. Okay.
And if you want me to be an evangelist for Pathfinder Second Edition, Brad, I would love to do that. We can talk about the blessed be that is Pathfinder Second Edition
We
some
have
other
to
time.
we'll have to have you back on to talk about this because this would be a good discussion talking about like
I
mechanics and things like this
Yeah.
because we've been
Oh,
wanting to talk about this
I
for a
love it.
while.
And then this is my last one. I play with my kids. So I told you I have an 8, 6, 4, and a
Yeah.
hold on,
Nice.
and a 1.5 year old. I play with the 8 and 6 year old. Don't worry,
Yeah.
I was trying to remember. I've played Shadow Dark with them.
Yeah.
That's been fun. But then I
Sorry,
also
honey,
play this
daddy
game.
has to kill you. Yeah.
Sorry,
Oh, you do
wow.
play. Is this
This is
based
another
off
game.
No
now?
monster
Have
shit.
you heard of Have you heard of Into the Odd?
I have not heard of
No.
that.
Into the Odd. It's a publisher is Free League, which I assume you guys know that
Oh.
publisher.
Oh, we
Oh
know Free
yeah.
League, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
definitely.
we've had some folks on from them.
The
Yes.
the way this system, it's a roll under system. And again, this one is even, I would say, even simpler than Shadow Dark. It only has 3 ability scores: strength, dex, and will. And what's
Okay.
cool about this one is it's tactile because you literally have item cards and everyone has the
Right. Okay.
same number of item slots. And so when you take damage and you get conditions, your conditions take up your item slots. And so you can die by if you get too many conditions and you have no more item slots left. So I've played this a little bit
Interesting.
with my kids and it's been fun. Um, so uh,
Hmm.
going back, steering this all back to like, why do I enjoy these things? Again, I've just noticed, again, when I play this with my kids as a dad, it helps me practice my patience with my children.
Hmm.
It helps like we get connected more. And when we get done, we only play for like a 30 to 45
Yeah, of
minute
course.
stint. But when
Yeah.
we're done, they're just like, Dad, that was so cool that they did this. And I thought that this snake was going to kill us. I can't believe it didn't kill us. I was like, yeah, wasn't that wild? You almost died there. I know. I was so scared. I thought it was going to eat us all. So, and my own children seem to work together more, which
Yeah.
is also like what parent doesn't want their children to get along
Seriously.
and work together?
So, I
So,
mean, you've seen this. You've been doing this with your kids at home, with little ones. You've been doing this with high
yeah,
schoolers, with colleagues who are
yes,
educators.
yeah,
And I know, like offline, I know because we've had lots of times to talk about this. I've seen your data, right? You found that this works for helping, like you're saying, to build social skills, to build
yeah,
communication skills, and kind of team building, social awareness, maybe some leadership skills. But what
yeah,
really caught my attention was just, well, man, what, like a week and a half ago? When not, yeah, no, no, you were the first. So like 2 weeks ago now, to when you said and this is what we would love for you to chat about. You're interested in somehow turning this into more serious professional development, like using
yeah,
this with people to help them build these same skills. That's
yeah.
very intriguing.
Yeah. If you want me to like tell you like what I've thought about and how I would want to do this, is that what you
Please.
want to go
Well,
over?
you can
Yeah.
tell us
As
whatever you
yeah, as
want.
much as you're willing to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And at this point, I'm still, this is
We'll
still
just put a
new.
little TM after it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
The
But
Peter
like
method.
There you
the
go.
Peter
Yeah.
Yeah,
method.
I
Yeah.
like it. Yeah.
Um, I
The P in
so I
TPK
think
is Peter.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean like how I would want to do this is, Jason, you made a really great comment, which I didn't even think about. Originally, you had said when we first met, you said, You can't do this with a school." And my immediate thought was, yeah, of course I can't do it with a school. They're so slow to like take any new exciting ideas. And you're like, no, it's because they won't pay you. And
Yep.
I was like, well, that is also true.
Yeah,
Those are not mutually exclusive. Yes.
that's right.
So, I mean, talking to some form of business, I would want to pitch it as, look, and you literally talk about this in your classes. We have plenty of data to show this.
Mhm.
If people aren't happy at their jobs, they are less effective.
Yep.
If they don't trust each other at their jobs, they don't trust their coworkers, they're less effective. And like, speaking of like, this isn't a secret, but like, even at my job,
Mhm.
we take surveys all the time, and
Yep.
like, we will self-assess and say, there's literally a question that says, do you trust your coworkers? And we have literal data that says some of our colleagues don't trust each other.
Yeah,
They don't
absolutely.
feel comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
And like, that sucks. And
Mhm.
so, how I would do this is I would want to meet with, if I could get access to a business,
Yeah.
and some CEO or whatever was like, yes, we want to do this. And we're like, how do you want to implement this? I would I would want to find at least five people just to start a test group of like the people who I would ask the employer, like, who are your people who are the most interested in new ideas? Who are the
Hmm.
people who others think of as leaders? And then who are the people that are quote unquote fun to be around?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
who are those people? And that's what I would want to play at the table.
Yep.
Now, obviously, I'm stacking the deck. I'm doing
Hmm.
that intentionally
Hmm.
because I meet with the people who would, after they have a good time with me, they would tell the others, look at
Yep.
this, this was fun. Oh my gosh. Then I would start branching out. Um, it would take a while,
Hmm.
as in, like, it would be like probably a year process
Oh yeah.
or a 6 month process with just that original group, and then another 6 month process of more people. Um, but that's how I'd want to do it. Is it would have to be a
See.
side gig too, probably do this while I'm still teaching on the
Hmm.
weekends or in the summer.
Yep.
Um, but that's as far as I've kind of gotten right now. I have a coworker who he and I had discussed business things all the time. He's an English teacher. He also likes programming video games, and so we like talking
Right.
game mechanics and all that stuff. And he loves this idea, and so we're just trying to figure out how do we do this.
That is
So
cool.
Yeah. There is, I have seen in my, because I work in tech,
yeah,
which is a transient industry.
Hmm.
yeah,
Um, so um, independent of education, which is much more stable. Um, I have worked at multiple companies over my 30-year career.
Hmm.
yeah.
I can't believe it's 30 years. I don't know if that says anything about me or the
Oh,
industry.
it
Cool.
says something about you, but go on.
Yeah, moving on. Um, thanks, Doc.
Yeah.
Um, but
Ooh,
yeah, so that was
shots fired.
no, but moving on. No, but I think there have been, and Jason and I have seriously talked about this. There have been attempts in so many different ways to at trying to find ways to build cohesion in teams.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um, and you know, there's been the often tried, I don't remember, outward bound, everyone goes on an adventure type of thing. I've always, that's never been anything that I think has been found fruitful. But, and then you have people get together and run through exercises or things like that. But why not try games?
yeah,
And why not, instead of putting together people within the same team,
Hmm.
why not put together people from disparate teams,
Yep.
from other
right.
groups together,
Yeah,
and and then go ahead and put people together. Um, you know, sorry, I'm just put together, then bring them back together.
Well,
and
and
have them work within the team. Again, I'm not trying to judge, but it's just, I'm just thinking about the idea of you're onto something in
Hmm.
yeah,
terms of this
Definitely.
idea about, and then using quick hit games to do it
yeah,
like that. Um, and then allowing failure. Um,
Mhm.
and having fun with failure. There is
yeah,
this business, you know, I'm not going to get this right because I didn't plan to talk about this, but there's this idea in business right now of fast failure and learn
Hmm.
from it and keep moving. You know,
Hmm.
okay,
and you can look that up. And this idea of failing fast, learning and moving on from it,
Yep.
especially in the software field. Um,
okay,
so you know, there's something there, and I'm seeing more and more in, especially in the software world, the idea of people are doing gaming now.
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
They're doing it as a means of relaxation, you know,
Well,
take
and I
advantage of
think
it.
thanks to, I guess this, it's not super recent anymore, but thanks to shows like The Big Bang Theory, a little more recently, maybe someday if season five ever comes out, Stranger Things, and their ilk, um, you know, RPGs and specifically tabletop RPGs, like they're in the general zeitgeist now in this
yeah,
country, in fact, globally, and they're not dismissed like they were before. And we know there's all. I mean, this stuff is the games are happening all over, but I think Peter, like using some of the games, not it could be any game, but like not the Pathfinders, but the other ones where there's a lot of churn, right? Where
yeah,
I mean, there could be like major turnover, major narrative change, whatever, still have healthy crunchiness within a few hours, right? Or
yeah,
within an hour and a half. Like there's a lot there potentially
yeah.
for professional development, for team building, for all of that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not like what's the right word I want to say? Uh, I, I'm completely aware that like it's not like RPGs are the perfect solution to make everyone get along. I mean, theoretically, you could probably do this with any board game. You could do this with like intramurals.
I
But if anyone's ever like, well, why
I don't
RPGs? I have a huge passion for RPGs.
I
I love these,
yeah,
and I'm good at this.
and I think we're both shaking our heads because I disagree. Yeah,
Okay,
board games. I get the logic, but I don't think it holds. Board games not the same. Intramurals
yeah,
not the same. The beauty of sitting at a table for an RPG is that there are rules
yes,
within which you can and have to function creatively,
yes,
looking and interacting with others, right?
yes,
Actively solving problems both independently and interdependently, right? There are so many elements that simulate real life,
yes.
but
I
in
was
a
honestly
space
trying
of,
to
yeah.
give you guys an out so that way you didn't alienate all of your sport fans who listen to your podcast and all that stuff.
That, believe
But
it or
now,
not,
now you've
apparently
done it,
some of them do
Jason.
like
Now,
sports, but not me.
Yeah,
No, but
I like
but
sports,
yeah,
but
go
but
sports.
yeah,
Yeah.
go sports. No,
Mhm.
but no, I think RPGs are yes, there are all sorts of different methods to go about this. I think RPGs are an untapped are an
Mhm.
are relatively untapped resource that can be
yeah,
used. And now that like Jason, like you said, they've permeated the zeitgeist, and it's, I mean, common. I mean, I'd be honest with you, how many,
Mhm.
you go out to, whether you're a TikTok watcher or YouTube Shorts or something like that. I was just watching the other day, and up came um a video of like A-list actors who you wouldn't expect, who have
yeah,
This is what I'm
now
saying.
who
Yeah.
are who are playing D&D.
Okay,
yeah,
Um,
there's one other element too that I think is relevant to what you're conceptualizing, Peter. And like I don't know, Brad, if we've ever I don't know if this has come up for us in any of our episodes or discussions with guests, but maybe once. But it goes so when we look at the research of how do you get people to get along, because I'm thinking about like what you were saying at the
yeah,
top of the chat, Peter. What can we do for people? How can we cultivate community? How can we
yeah,
cultivate um not even respect, just tolerance. How can we move
Yeah.
past that, right? And I mean, in the microcosm, like Brad knows this better than we do. Like this is a work issue. This is a business issue. We see it everywhere. Okay,
Mhm.
this is a bit of an extreme example, but I think it holds, and I think it's a good business rationale. If we look at the research out there, to my knowledge, the only studies, experimental studies that have demonstrated conclusively that we can build agreement, we can build cooperation reliably. Still only like two-thirds to three-quarters of the time. Hardly perfect. But it's the Robbers Cave experiments with Sharif and Sharif back in the 70s. And
Oh,
all
wow.
that matters, yeah, you've studied this, Brad.
I
No
Yeah.
don't
way
know
you
this
got
one. I'm unfamiliar.
no way you got through your MBA without that. But
Yeah.
but the gist of it is that when you have uh, when you have opposed groups of individuals, the only thing that brought them together reliably, not perfectly, but reliably, was them having to cooperate. Yep, having to cooperate in order to achieve a goal that
Yeah.
everyone wanted to achieve. See where I'm going with this? And
Yeah. Yeah.
and like you were saying, oh, sorry, it's the what not Shadowrun.
Shadow Dark. No, that's
Shadow
a
Dark,
Shadow
different
yeah.
Dark.
RPG. But
Shadow,
yeah, you're
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Well,
Hmm.
but Shadow, that's why. But with Shadow Dark, where
Jason
like
likes robots.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I do have a thing
Yeah.
about robots.
Yeah.
Especially robots that have religion, but that's a whole other conversation.
Mhm.
Um, but like you look at something like Shadow Dark where there's some crunchiness, but more importantly, it's fast paced, it's easy to
Mhm.
learn and play, and there's a good chance you die.
Yeah.
Right. So whether it's using something like that with a work group or like Brad was saying, an assembled, set of employees or like your little kids, right?
Yeah.
Either way, it's like, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen. And look what happened. And we did it
Yeah.
together, right?
Yeah.
And and that's like the only thing that has ever been found to reliably work. And that has RPG all over it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
another thing to add to that, like to like emphasize that point, this is another thing that just kind of like made me a better GM is when I started playing with teachers, not just the obviously I play with my high school buddies all the time. Like we've been playing for over 2 decades.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
incredible.
noticed that with teachers, because of how they write lesson plans, they're like, okay, Peter, what is our goal? Like they would, I remember at one point we were playing and they stopped me and was like, stop, Peter, just tell us what do we got to do? What's the goal here? And I was like, I can tell they are not upset with me. They just need to know the gist. And I was like, you need to kill the celestial. It is clearly evil and manipulating. Go kill it. And they're like, we got it, Peter. We're going to go kill this celestial. Cool. And that was it. Then what they ended up doing is they would literally talk to each other. Like we'd be in the middle of a dungeon. Someone would get hurt and they're like, okay, we know what's in this room, but we should probably backtrack and go get some potions. And they would discuss like what was tactically the best thing to do. But if we leave, this person could bleed out. What do we do? And it was wild, again, anecdotally, to see they had this goal. They knew what they needed to do. They were still trying to work with each other. And it just made it very, very simple. Like,
Hmm.
this is our goal. We got to work together. We don't want anyone else to die.
Just
And it
like
was cool.
the PCs don't have to like each other. They
Yeah.
just have to be a good party,
Yeah. And
Hmm.
that was another thing they
right?
noticed too. As you guys know, in RPGs, you don't split the party. You don't
Right.
do that. You don't split the party. When the teachers did it, I was like, nope, let it happen, Peter. The experience is going to be the best teacher. One person walked into a dungeon that had a buttload of mooks in there, and I was like, they're going to just die, and that's okay. And they immediately got killed, 3 spears to the gut, and they died. And then the next session, they were like, okay, Peter's not pulling punches. He clearly hates us. Let's not break up the party again so we don't die. And I was like, right, cool beans. They figured this out. So,
Yeah,
uh,
there is, as I always, you know, there's so much to be learned. There is so much to be gleaned. That's maybe a better way of putting it.
Bourgeois
From
glean. Never mind. Keep
extra,
going.
okay.
Sorry.
um, from an exercise, um, from an exercise like this, just putting, think, and when you think about it, putting directors, managers, and line level personnel into a group, into a party, all of them now being equal,
I think this would
Yeah.
be
at a character
fascinating.
level,
Oh, see, I was
I
and
thinking like what about like the C-suite? Or like what if
I haven't even
yeah,
introduced that
what
idea. I'm
what
just
if you
thinking
could do
now.
this like to train a board? Like this
dude,
would
okay,
like this
Jason,
would
that terrifies me.
this would be like the onboarding for a
Yeah,
corporate board of directors.
but that is a good idea. Honestly,
But I like
I
your
I
idea, Brad.
am
That's
I
better.
am I am personally more beholden to like the line workers. I would I would rather them get along
Yep.
first,
Yep.
and then once I build trust with them, because I'm a lowly teacher here. Once I get along with them,
No,
then I can be
you're
like,
the game master.
you're the game master. That's right. And then once I get
You're the
along with
game
them,
master,
sure,
master,
then I
master,
would say,
master.
okay, you admin, higher up managers, you need to do this too now. You need to do this with your other equals, and then eventually, gosh, that would I don't even know how that would. Because you're right, Brad. That is a good like equalizer. Everyone's on the
Yeah.
same footing.
You
Your job
there's
doesn't matter.
you
Mhm.
find you there are methods in the corporate world when they try to introduce new systems, new ideas. This was really predominant in the last decade. I haven't kept up to see if they still are doing it or not, but where they would look for champions and they would look for broad swaths. So it didn't matter whether you were in the trenches, whether you're an individual. What you hear people are called as individual contributors now,
Okay.
or manager level, director level, or C-suite level, um, at as or what they would call an executive sponsor level. Um, but they would bring those people all together to become champions of an initiative, whether you were
Hmm.
launching something and using like EOS, the executive. Think of it as like I won't even get into it. But point being is if you were launching like some new methodology that you were going to use company wide,
Yeah.
Okay.
they would do that. And so that's just an option to think about is
Hmm.
by by using a broad swath of individuals, because I can tell you at companies that I've worked at, um, there would be gamers or people that would be interested in gaming that that
Yeah.
could that would stretch all over that, and you would find it interesting. And um, ultimately, I here I'll preach for 30 seconds. We talked about this, Jason. You guys were talking about this early on. Um, I'll speak to it from kind of a different perspective. I'm a firm believer that you have to have hope when you get up to go to work in the morning. And if your office is in the
Yeah.
basement, like
Yeah.
mine is and Jason's is when we work at
They
home,
recently took Brad's red stapler.
yeah. Um, um,
Sorry, keep going.
but it could be the longest commute of your life just going
Right,
back
Yeah.
and
that's
forth.
right.
If you don't have that hope, you have to find your fuel.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
have to find your own fuel, and Jason knows this. I've written about this. I've latched on to different methodologies or different theories around it. Um, you know, and you will never using this type of thing and introducing a broad swath of people. You could find managers and directors finding people in the strangest places,
Hmm.
people who might get caught because they're not the most verbal. They might be
Yeah.
more achievement driven
Yeah.
and they're not necessarily high affiliation. So they're not going to be verbal. They're workers. Um,
Yeah.
and it's a great way to introduce people that to leaders that they might not necessarily have exposure to. So
Yeah.
it's just another
Okay.
thought and idea.
So kind of as we head toward a bit of a wrap up. So what this like I listened to what both of you are saying and it occurs to me like I'm thinking of like what's going to be your business plan, right? And and like how specific and or diversified. And it's like, okay, so from an organizational standpoint, like you could do this in terms of developing structural or like human resource, human level skill sets, right? Just teaching team building, very structural, but
Yeah.
very procedural, process oriented. But also this could be done to kind of build leadership capacity amidst, like Brad was saying, a range of people in a range of positions. Or, like you could do something like this really with an, depending on what's desired at the organization, with an eye toward culture. Like if you
Mm,
were right, if especially if you were looking at the organizational leadership, then this could be a way to teach them to model a different, more ad hoc, democratic, dynamic culture, right?
yeah.
Or some combination of those and more, right? So I mean, I think there's as we'll want to hear back when you're making a ton of money off of this idea and like how you like what you settled on. But I can imagine different organizations of different sizes and different purposes really looking for for different pieces of this, right? Like there's so much
Yeah.
you could offer with this. What's the
Yeah.
fit for that organization, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. What services does it provide? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like
It's
not a
there's
menu,
a
but a
need.
scroll. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a need, and RPGs are an untapped, I think, mechanism to be used for this.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think my final piece on this would just be like if it was like my thumbnail for like a YouTube video, it was,
Yeah.
do you need to get along with your coworkers? I have the answer. It's RPGs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
there it is. And even what you said too, Brad, you need to find hope. Like it can be you now have made a connection. No,
So,
at work.
no,
I'm sorry. You need
no,
to find
I'm
hope,
just
Brad,
thinking
at work.
in parentheses, some of them might die. Yeah.
Yeah,
Some of them
yeah.
might die.
But only in the game. Don't get
Right.
your
Only
hopes
in the
up.
Right.
game. Yeah.
But
Only in
it
the
is
game.
Um,
Don't get your
it's
hopes up.
just a wonderful it is a wonderful and creative and fun idea that like
yeah.
I think a lot of people, how you get paid for anything these days, I'm not sure. But like I think it really has salience and you're the kind of person to deliver it so enthusiastic and beautifully,
You
right?
have
You've been
you
doing
have
it.
your
Yeah.
effusive personality. I think, to be quite honest with you, just take this for what it's worth. I think that will be a marketing and selling point, and
It's hard to
Thank
find a
you.
good GM.
yeah, and you have to, in my personal opinion, you have to use that and run with it. That is going to
Yeah.
be a huge selling point for
See, you
corporations.
could have a whole game management, right? And
Hmm.
teach
Yeah.
everybody how to be a GM.
Well,
Yeah.
honestly, it's hard to say in teaching and GMing which one helped me be better at which job.
Interesting.
It's a chicken, it's an egg situation.
It's a yin
So I
There you
yang.
mean,
You
go.
just
Yeah.
yeah, like teaching probably helped me be a better GM. GMing probably helped me practice these things, but yeah. So
you could. It's like, it's like in Spider-Man too. You could market it as, you know, I can teach you to have the Peter tingle.
Okay, that was pretty good. I have to give you that one.
Peter, thanks for joining us tonight. This was actually quite
yes,
fun. And
This is
again,
really neat.
at some
Yeah.
point you'll have to come back, because I would love to have like a long form discussion talking about Pathfinder and 1E
yeah,
and
And
2E.
Chewie, and yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because
That's
it would be a fun topic, because we haven't talked Pathfinder in years.
is that the main system that you guys have? When's the last time you guys have played
Oh,
a Pathfinder?
you
sorry.
played anything?
People
Yeah.
ask us that a lot on this podcast, and
Yeah,
it's
we
been a while.
played, it's a
Oh,
couple months.
been a few months, and we're gearing up to maybe play in the next month or so.
What are you guys
Yeah, but
playing? You said
Star Trek
mention
Adventures.
Fate. Okay,
Oh,
Star Trek. Okay,
Star Trtrek Adventures
Star Trek
okay,
right
Adventures.
now.
We're
Yeah.
right now we're focusing in the sci-fi realm. I'm writing
okay.
something that's more
Yeah, I bought the GURPS core
cross
rule book. It's just sitting
cross,
there.
shut up. Cross verse.
Yeah.
I bought Midnight because of you, and that's still sitting there. So
That we do
um
need to play that.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Do you guys
but
play in
we
person or online?
well,
Well, I'm
because
in
I'm
St. Paul and Brad's in Milwaukee.
yeah.
Oh,
So
So
shoot. Okay.
yeah,
maybe we'll play when I come out to visit this summer. That,
yes.
but yeah, I think definitely. But yeah, no,
But
it's got
yeah,
to
we,
be
we
like
tend to
this,
play
man.
online because
Yeah.
there's another one of our friends who, when he's able to play, he
Mm.
lives, he is about an hour north of me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
And
another
he'll
one in
play.
South Carolina for that game.
Yeah,
So,
Oh my
so like this is
gosh.
just the way it is. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And of course, that makes total sense. Like, oh man, you guys, like you said, you've been friends for 3 decades now, right?
yep.
So I mean,
It will
like, of
be.
course, you guys are
It's going to
conveniently not
be
within an hour of each other. So,
33 years come August or September.
dang.
No,
Yeah,
no.
92 to 2025.
92.
Yeah,
Yes.
1992.
Wow.
Right.
Dang.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Well, before we go down that slippery slope,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
Peter, thanks so much for being with us.
Yes, it's been a blast. Thank you, Jason and Brad. I appreciate it.
Peter, that was actually, thank you for joining us. It like we said before we
Lit
went
our
to the
fire.
interview, it actually it brought up, especially when we were talking about Shadow Dark. Um, I alluded to this in a prior episode when we were in our Loon Cafe.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I had actually heard of Shadow Dark when I was investigating, um, and had come across Dungeon Crawl Classics,
Yeah.
and Shadow Dark came up because those are kind of like two at the forefront of the the air quote old school systems that have been rejuvenated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and Shadow Dark has just a phenomenal history, and the fact and how you're using it and how you described it.
Kudos.
And
Seriously.
yeah, kudos at how you're using it with kids. I mean, just and what you want to do with it, and it just is very inspiring.
So
And
everybody,
I've even talked about it with a colleague at work
yeah,
about it.
see, so like everyone, and we really mean this. Uh, Peter's a bright, dynamic, lovely individual who's got a great idea to take this into leadership development. Stay tuned. Stay on the lookout for him moving forward with this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But let's head over to the Loon Cafe.
Let's.
Um, I'm going to hijack it for a moment because as I have been talking about with Shadow Dark
Yeah.
and with Dungeon Crawl, um, you know, something popped up on my shelf
Yeah.
that's been sitting there. We've had various discussions here and there about it, um, and I think I've been working on um, you know GURPS Land, and that's what I kind of codenamed my project that I'm working on. But this one, um, literally the book, literally I was grabbing another book and this book kind of slid out, and I'm like, okay, we got to do something with this. Um, Midnight.
Oh, yeah. Well done. Well done.
So Midnight, I think we've talked about this on and off over the years. We don't have to go too deeply into it, but um, I think since it's already pre-built and everything all exists, my thought process is to get my juices flowing again
Yeah.
as like a game master. I've even pondered the idea of doing like a mini adventure within that realm,
Oh, that
um,
would be awesome.
for us.
Yes.
Just like a mini little one shot.
And,
Um,
and there's all kinds of stuff available too. You wouldn't
oh
have to write
yes,
it. Yeah.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
that's what I'm
Okay.
saying
Okay.
is that it's been so long since I've
Oh,
GM'd anything
I am
for us.
in.
That's what I thought, and I thought we've had this sitting here. I have told you don't get rid of that book. It's sat on that
Nope,
shelf.
it's
I know
it's right
before,
there. Yep.
but when you had your
I cleaned
keeping
house, got
shelf,
yep, yep.
and you had the shelf that
Yeah,
was
I know
I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
you
I
were
said,
nervous.
don't you get rid of it.
So, just as a reminder for those of you listening who are not overly familiar with Midnight,
Mhm.
and I'm going to not do justice, no one sue me, talking to you, Asmodee.
Yeah.
But uh this is a Fantasy Flight game slash Edge Studio game, right? Um, and essentially the premise is, and again, this is not party line, but
Now it's its own IP.
it's its own IP. Thank you. It's its own
Yeah.
IP, uses the Genesis dice system, lots to love, but it's really dark, but essentially and Edge is slowly releasing material for it. So it is alive. But essentially the concept is go back to Middle Earth with Tolkien. What if Sauron had not been defeated? See, that just makes me want to play right there.
See, that's why I
I am
thought, well,
so
you know
in.
what? It tackles a fantasy
Yeah.
itch.
Does this mean I can sell my GURPS core rulebook then?
No,
I'm kidding.
no, no, you can't. Because that think about it. That's like the ultimate sandbox.
It is.
You
It is. It literally.
that literally well, you know, we have so much available to us
Yes.
literally with
Yeah.
content. And
Oh
we've
my
looked at
God.
some of it. Some of it was like hilarious and some of it was disturbing. So in a funny way.
Yes. But
Um
you and I lately have both been itching for a little bit of fantasy play when it comes to RPGs.
I think we all we you know, you have your work, you're literally we're going to be talking about this in the future. You're working on stuff in the STA realm for a game for us, as a
Yeah.
GM.
Yep.
Um, all we're looking to do is now this it's going to be tight fitting in because July is going to be kind of a busy month for us
Yep.
and with traveling and
But
everything
we can make it
for
work.
right. But all we're going to try to do is we're going to try to even it out a little bit. And I
Hmm.
thought, why not have something that's a quick hit,
Yeah.
you
No,
know,
that's really smart.
and ultimately, um, it's in a dice system that we're familiar with. Um, and we can work through it. We can putz around with it. It'll just be fun to do something. I hate not that we don't love the podcast, but it'll be something to do
Well,
that's
but
not the
we
podcast.
want to play. I mean,
Yes,
the whole reason of the podcast, as we've said innumerable times,
4 years
over
ago was because we wanted to
we
play.
wanted to play. Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
well, in terms of what's on my desk, I'm just going to say this is what's on my desk.
that's
This
what I
is
figured.
this is thanks
I
to
figured
you.
anything else.
Yeah.
Once I said midnight, I figured anything else that you were pondering was going to go out the window just in the context of this discussion.
Now, I am purposely not going to do what I want to do, which is to look at the currently available adventures. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to remain midnight. I'm
Oh,
going
you know
to.
what you do? You know what I would say is go look at them because I haven't chosen anything yet. Go
Oh,
look
okay.
at them
Okay.
because then anything you look at, I won't choose. You know,
Okay. So,
if you
yeah.
look at and dive into something, you'll tell me
Oh, no,
what it
no, no.
is,
I'm
and
not. Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it just won't be something that I end up
Yeah.
grabbing.
Fair enough. All right. So stay tuned because if this
Hmm.
actually happens, people, Brad
Hmm.
and I are going to report out on it in
Yeah.
a later podcast episode.
And as an inside joke, you won't have throwing axes.
We'll see. We'll see.
Okay. Okay.
All right, everybody. You know the deal. Be well, stay well. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.